Border Patrol wasn't making their rounds, so we fired a shot just to flag them down.
Today we're digging into 10 classic songs from the late 60s to early 80s that are actually based on very true stories. You will never look at some of these tunes the same way again. Some you might have sang along to for years without realizing that they were true.
I'm gonna be like him, yeah, you know I'm gonna be like him.
And others, well, we'll find out if those stories you've heard about are actually true or not. So come on, and let's sail to the wreck. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, Gordon Lightfoot, 1976. Now here's one that gave us chills the first time we heard it, and it still does today. Gordon Lightfoot's deep, steady voice pulls you into the tale like you're sitting in a dark room with the wind howling outside.
There's made a tattletale sound and the wave broke over the railing.
It felt like a maritime eulogy set to music, with that eerie guitar rolling in like the stormy waves off Lake Superior. Let's face it, it didn't sound like anything else on the radio at that time. No catchy chorus, no studio polish, just raw storytelling start to finish.
Like Huron Rose, Superior sings in the ruins of her ice water bench.
But the real weight behind this folk epic was that it actually happened, and so fast. On November 10th, 1975, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, one of the largest freighters ever to sail the Great Lakes, was making a routine run loaded with iron ore pellets when it sailed into a very deadly storm. Now, this wasn't a few whitecaps, it was a full-blown 70-mile-per-hour gale with waves reaching up to 35 feet. Radio contact was lost that night, and by the next morning, wreckage was spotted floating on the surface. All 29 crewmen were gone.
Or they might have capsized, they may have broke deep and took water.
Well, when Lightfoot saw the Newsweek article covering the disaster, he was shaken. He later said the story felt like a song waiting to be written. And within just a few weeks, he had written it, virtually line by line, following the actual events as they were reported.
In the face of a hurricane, west wind.
The details he included weren't just poetic, they were ripped right from the headlines. The ship's last transmission, the captain's final update, even the cook saying, quote, "It's been good to know ya." You don't get closer to nonfiction than that. And here's the kind of guy that Lightfoot was. When the official Coast Guard report later corrected one of the presumed causes of the wreck, well, Gordon started changing the lyric in live performances to match the updated findings. No fuss, no headlines, just pure respect. He didn't want to misrepresent the men who went down with that ship. This was never about selling records. It was about memorializing something terrible with dignity. And to this day, the folks in the Great Lakes region hold memorials every year for the crew. And this song, it still plays like a sacred hymn on November 10th. The bell on the Fitzgerald is rung 29 times, once for each soul lost.
Afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane, west wind.
Now, the song itself is of course still heard on classic radio stations, especially in the fall, and I'll put it on whenever I need to go somewhere else to hear a story in song form. It's also popped up on the wildly popular Apple TV show Severance, and darn, they managed to make this touching ballad sound really spooky. But I'll tell you something, it's one of those songs you don't just hear, you feel. Like a ghost story your dad used to tell you, only this one is true. Ohio, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, 1970. This one didn't just play on the radio, it roared through it like a warning siren. Ohio is Neil Young at his most raw and electric, backed by those signature harmonies by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. The guitars bite, the drums march, and Neil practically spits out the lyrics like he can barely contain what he's feeling. It wasn't slick or polished, it was furious, and we all knew why. Just days before the song was written, America watched in disbelief as the National Guard opened fire on unarmed Vietnam protesters at Kent State. May 4th, 1970, 4 lives were taken. 2 of them weren't even part of the protest, just walking to their next quiz. and dozens more were wounded. And in that moment, the war stopped being something happening over there afar. It felt like it had arrived on a college campus in the heart of Ohio. And when Neil Young was flipping through Life magazine, he saw the photo, the one with the teenage girl screaming over the unalived Jeffrey Miller. That image shook him. He picked up his guitar and he wrote Ohio on the spot. It was recorded and released in less than 3 weeks, and that's practically overnight in music terms. No filters, no metaphors, just a gut punch of a lyric, 10 soldiers and Nixon coming. The song didn't ask questions, it pointed fingers, and it named names, and that was bold for the time. So yeah, it got banned on plenty of AM stations, but you know how that works. Ban it, and now everyone wants to hear it even more. And when they did, they didn't forget it. To be frank, nobody could and nobody should. Ohio still finds its way onto protest playlists today. It gets rediscovered every time a new generation wonders where the line is between freedom and fear, for peaceful protest and unrightful overcorrection. For those of you who lived through the 70s, it was more than a protest anthem. It was a line drawn in the sand. And Neil Young, he didn't just give the grief a voice, he handed it a guitar and he turned up the volume. Summer I hear the drumming, in Ohio. I Shot the Sheriff, Bob Marley 1973, Eric Clapton 74. Alright, now here's one everyone knows. Even if you're more Clapton than Marley, that rhythm still sticks with you. Eric Clapton turned it into a smooth, slow burn in 74, but Bob Marley had written it the year before, and trust me, his version had fire under the surface. That reggae groove might sound relaxed, but listen closer and you'll realize it's rebellion wrapped in rhythm. Marley wasn't just singing a catchy tune, he was telling a story he couldn't afford to say out loud. See, Bob Marley later admitted that I Shot the Sheriff was never meant to be taken at face value. The sheriff wasn't just one man, it was the system. Law enforcement in Jamaica at the time had their eyes on him, and he knew it. He felt watched, hassled, and even targeted. Music the way some folks use whisper campaigns. The metaphor let him speak his truth without putting a target on his back. Well, at least not right away. He changed police to sheriff, and suddenly he had a message he could slip through the cracks and into the airwaves. And slip it through he did. When Clapton covered it, the edge was dulled a bit, but the reach exploded. Suddenly, Marley's defiant message was a #1 hit, even if it was someone else's voice delivering it. We all know this one, and it's almost a chill cookout kind of vibe, but under that sway and groove is a man trying to stay one step ahead of real-life threatening danger. Bob Marley wasn't just writing songs, he was sending smoke signals, hiding the truth in plain sight, and with this one, he got the whole world to sing along without even realizing what they were singing about. Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple, 1972. To someone who did, you probably heard it 400 times before they learned to play anything else. It's the universal starter pack for budding rock stars, but what a lot of folks don't realize is that the song isn't just rock classic, it's practically a play-by-play for one of the craziest nights in music history. So here's what happened. Deep Purple had set up shop in Montreux, Switzerland, planning to record their next album in a casino using a mobile studio owned by the Rolling Stones. It was supposed to be the perfect setup, but during a Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention concert, just before Deep Purple started recording, someone in the crowd fired a flare gun into the ceiling, and the place caught fire almost instantly. The entire casino went up in flames. From across Lake Geneva, the band watched in horror as the smoke drifted out over the water. Black plumes rolling into the sky like something out of a disaster film. And that image was burnt into their brains, and they wrote it down immediately. Smoke on the water, fire in the sky. It wasn't poetic license, it was a literal description of what they saw, as their entire recording plan went up in smoke. The song became a gritty, pounding retelling of a night when everything that could go wrong did. They had to scramble to find a new place to record, eventually laying down the track in an old hotel, but the chaos it gave the song a very real edge. This was a musical newspaper clipping, delivered with crunching chords and no-nonsense lyrics. Funky Claude, the guy who helped evacuate the burning casino, even got name-dropped. Claude Nobbs, Montreux's own music legend. Today, it's more than just a must-learn riff, it's a badge of honor for every garage guitarist. But once you know what really happened that night, it's not just a song anymore. It's a piece of rock history forged in actual fire, where one bad decision gave us all one of the greatest anthems of all time. American Pie, Don McLean, 1971. This one's more than just a song, it's a full-blown time capsule pressed into vinyl. Don McLean's American Pie gave us a lyrical puzzle we've been trying to solve since 1971.
I started singing, bye, bye, Miss American Pie, drove my Chevy.
But beneath the clever lines and cryptic references, it's rooted in something devastatingly real. You've heard the phrase, the day the music died. Well, McLean lived it. On February 3, 1959, a small plane went down in a cornfield in Iowa, killing 3 rising stars of early rock and roll.
Is in the dark the day the music died.
Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson. Don McLean was just a teenager delivering newspapers when the headline hit. He said it felt like a punch to the gut, like something sacred had ended. That moment stuck with him for over a decade, and when it finally poured out in song, it became American Pie.
We started singing, bye, bye, Miss American Pie, oh, my Chevy.
A sprawling 8.5-minute eulogy for everything that was lost that day and everything that followed. The song's not just about that plane crash, it's about a generation grappling with the chaos that came after. JFK's fateful end, the Manson cases, Altamont, Vietnam, it's all in there. Hidden behind lines about jester kings and marching bands. McLean tied it all back to that first heartbreak, when rock and roll's brightest voices were silenced in the cold winter air.
The music died. Come on now.
And when he sang Bye Bye Miss American Pie, you didn't have to know what every lyric meant to feel his ache. It became an anthem, people sang it at bars, at rallies, at graduations, it was everywhere.
This will be the day that I die. This will be the day that I die.
Even today it shows up in films, commercials, and those brave karaoke attempts that clock in at nearly 10 minutes. Get off the stage, Bill! But here's the thing, no matter where you hear it or how many verses you remember, it still hits. Because for so many, the day the music died wasn't just about Buddy and that crash, it was about everything good we thought we'd always have, suddenly gone.
Then good old boys are drinking whiskey and rye, saying this will be the day that I die.
Hurricane, Bob Dylan, 1975. Now here's Dylan not as the mumbling poet, but as the fired-up truth teller, standing on a street corner with a megaphone and a mission. Hurricane isn't just a song, it's a legal brief, a man's life story unraveled over a searing 8 minutes.
Here's the story of the hurricane, the man the authorities came to blame.
The violin screams like a warning siren, and Dylan doesn't sing, he testifies. And if you didn't know this was real, you'd swear it was ripped from a courtroom drama. But it was all, unfortunately, very true. Okay, so Reuben Hurricane Carter was a top-ranked middleweight boxer, just steps away from the title shot, when everything fell apart. In 1966, he was arrested and later convicted for a triple homicide in New Jersey, a case built on shaky eyewitnesses, missing evidence, and a whole lot of racial bias. No weapon, no motive, and later 2 of the key witnesses admitted that they lied. But still, Carter was sentenced to life in prison. Dylan read Carter's autobiography, The 16th Round, and couldn't believe what he saw. So he visited Rubin behind bars, talked with him face to face, and walked away simply outraged. Almost immediately, he wrote Hurricane, a song that spelled out the injustice line by line, naming names, pointing fingers, and daring the world to look away.
Remember you murder that you saw in a bar. Remember you said you saw her get away.
He didn't mince words, he didn't soften the message, he turned every verse into a chapter in the fight for truth. Dylan took the song on tour, raising awareness and pushing the case back into the public view. It didn't fix everything overnight, but it helped light a fire.
In a prison cell, but one time he could have been the champion of the world.
And in 1985, nearly 2 decades after his arrest, Carter's conviction was finally overturned. And to this day, the song lives on not just on retro playlists, but in classrooms as a reminder that sometimes music doesn't just tell a story, it changes its ending. Tangled Up in Blue, Bob Dylan, 1975. Here's Dylan again, but now he's not on the protest stage or behind the bullhorn. He's in the passenger seat of your car late at night, telling you the story he keeps trying to rewrite. Tangled Up in Blue isn't just heartbreak set to music, it's the sound of a man trying to retrace his steps through love, regret, and everything in between.
She was working in a topless place, and I stopped in for a beer. I just kept looking at the side of her.
With shifting verses, time jumps, and a tone that feels half confessional, half dream, it might be Dylan's most personal song. And yeah, that's saying something. At the heart of it is his first wife, Sarah Lowndes. By the early 70s, their marriage was hanging by a thread. They had been together since the mid-60s. Through Dylan's meteoric rise, his motorcycle accident, his withdrawal from the public eye, and by the time Blood on the Tracks came in 1974, things were quietly falling apart. Now, Dylan never named her in the lyrics, but the timing, the themes, and even some private lines he later revealed in notebooks all point to Sarah. He once admitted that the songs on the album reflected the sorrow and confusion he was living through, saying the music was based on real emotional experiences, not necessarily events, but feelings. And Tangled Up in Blue feels like a man trying to get his arms around a story that just won't hold still. The narrator changes perspectives, sometimes he's I, sometimes he, and sometimes even she.
Well, he started into dealing with slaves, and something inside of him died.
There's no clear timeline, no polished ending. One minute he's hitchhiking to Delacroix, the next he's back in a basement room, thinking about something he said years earlier. It reads like journal pages shuffled out of order, and that was intentional. Dylan said he wanted the song to be cinematic, to move like a movie where you have to figure out where you are from the mood, not a title card. The emotional through line, though, never wavers. It's all about lost love, and the ache of looking back with more questions than answers. It's the sound of someone trying to find the thread in a relationship that unraveled long, long ago. Today, Tangled Up in Blue still gets airplay, but more than that, it gets felt. It's quoted in novels, covered in concerts, and whispered in the heads of people trying to make sense of their own almosts. It's less of a story, more of a mood. And for anyone who's ever stood in a familiar place with a stranger's heart, wondering how they got there, it rings painfully true.
Keep on keeping on like a bird that flew, tangled up in blue.
The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, Vicki Lawrence, 1972. Now here's a song that sounds like a soap opera, but hits like a Southern fried courtroom drama, but with a body count. The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia came out of nowhere in 1972, sung by Vicki Lawrence. Yeah, that Vicki from Mama's Family.
And I'm your best friend and you know that's right. But your young bride ain't home tonight.
One minute she's cracking jokes in a wig, and the next she's coolly recounting a small town murder, a wrongful execution, and a twist that would have made Hitchcock grin. It hit number 1 in 1973, and people couldn't get enough of it. It was a murder ballad that didn't just tell a story, it unfolded like a whodunit with a sting in the tail.
That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
The man behind the lyrics was Bobby Russell, a pop songwriter known for upbeat hits like Little Green Apples, but this was a major left turn. He said the idea came from the stories his brother used to tell him about the kind of justice you'd find in tiny Georgia towns, where everybody knows everybody and the law gets bent by gossip, grudges, and who you happen to be related to. Bobby thought the song was too dark to go anywhere, but his wife, Vicky, heard something in it. Something slow, smoky, and dangerous, and she stepped up to record it when no one else would, and thank goodness she did.
He saw while on his way to Andy's house and back that night were mine.
Vicky's delivery is what made it unforgettable. Soft-spoken, almost sweet, right up until she drops the hammer. You think you're following a classic case of mistaken identity. A man returns home to find his wife cheating, gets accused of murder, and gets executed for a crime he didn't commit. But then comes the twist. His sister, the narrator, is the one who actually did the killing, covering up the entire thing while letting her brother take the fall.
That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
No apologies, no regrets, just a chilling last line and the sense that justice doesn't always come in uniform. The song sparked controversy, but it also sparked imaginations. It's been covered a lot over the years, most notably I think by Reba McEntire in the 1990s, but nothing quite matches the eerie calm of that original. Southern hospitality, sure, but cross the wrong person and the lights might just go out again.
That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
Cats in the Cradle, Harry Chapin, 1974. You probably didn't cry the first time you heard it, but somewhere along the way, after you became a parent maybe, or lost one, or just started looking back, you felt that lump in your throat. Cats in the Cradle, it sounds gentle and sweet, but the sadness sneaks up.
Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon.
And Harry Chapin sings it with the kind of wary wisdom, like someone who's already seen how it all plays out and wants the rest of us to wake up before we miss it too. But the real story behind the song, it didn't start with Harry. The original lyrics were a poem written by his wife, Sandy Chapin. She drew from a painful chapter in her own life, watching her first husband struggle with his relationship with their son.
The cats in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon.
Harry read it and saw more than just a poem. He saw a universal truth. After the birth of their own son, the message hit even harder, and he set it to music. And what came out was a cautionary tale wrapped in folk rock storytelling. A father too busy for his child, who grows up to be just like him.
In the cradle and a silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon.
The heartbreak is in the everyday stuff, the missed ball games, the rain-checked lunches, the not nows that slowly add up until there's no more time to reschedule at all. And the most gut-punch moment is when the grown-up son says, "I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time." And you realize the cycle is locked in. It's not cruel, it's not intentional, but it still hurts like hell.
I'm gonna be like him, yeah, you know I'm gonna be like him.
The song struck a nerve back then, and it still does today. And maybe it hurts a little more knowing that Chapin himself died just a few years later in a car crash, only 38 years old, leaving behind the very son that also helped inspire the song. Cats in the Cradle isn't just about time slipping away. It's a mirror held up to all the good intentions that never quite turned into action. And the scariest part, it's true for more of us than we'd like to admit.
My new job's a hassle and the kids are the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad.
There you have them, unforgettable songs from the late 60s, 70s, and early 80s that weren't just hits, they were more like history lessons, personal confessions, and truth bombs in disguise. Some told stories too strange for fiction, others gave voice to private pain or public outrage. But every one of them was grounded in something real, something lived. It just goes to show you, behind every great song, there's usually a story. And sometimes that story's a storm on Lake Superior. Sometimes it's a flare gun at a concert. Sometimes it's a poem from a wife about a father who never called. Either way, when you listen close, these old tunes don't just take you back, they tell you something. They can help you live more thoughtfully today. And so, which of these stories surprised you most? Did you grow up hearing any of these and not realize that they were based on actual true events? Did you know any of these before, and did you learn something about one of your favorite songs? I hope so. This was a ton of fun putting this one together because all of these are incredible songs based on wildly true events. So please get down in the comments and tell us your true events about these songs. Which is your favorite? And if you enjoyed the video, which we sure hope you did, please click that thumbs up icon. It really helps our channel grow. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you never miss a memory. But most importantly, from my entire team here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you for watching and have a wonderful day because, who knows, one day it might be a song.